Hello. Last time I posted on this channel was a few years ago, so I'm back. Um, I just picked up this from Pals, Winds and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. It's really big, and it was $40. um, which I guess is pretty typical of him. I don't know how it was possible to get. Is this bigger than Oathbringer? And I don't remember what the next one's called. It's pretty big, you guys. Like, as far as I want to read more resolutions go, this is a little much. So that's intense. Um, and I've been reading Brandon Sanderson since I was like a teenager in college. And I've always enjoyed his books. Um, I think they're really fun, and I don't think he's the most like poetic, as far as raw writing skill, I don't think he's like the top author, but he's really, really good at what he does. And I find his books interesting, and I think it's really fun that there's like a whole Cosmere now and everything. And um, I haven't been making a lot of art or doing a lot of that stuff for a couple years now because for the past year and a half or so, I've been in trauma therapy. And that's been really intense. And unsurprisingly, a lot of that stuff is connected to my relationship with making art and is also part of why I tend to sort of poke my head in online, go, I have these ideas and these things I want to do, and then I disappear. And my YouTube channel is kind of a reflection of that, where, I have a really good idea and it's really hard for me to like keep up with it. I find the whole being online thing really scary, including this, but we're doing it. Um, but for a really long time, I've always wanted to go through the whole Sanderson Cosmere and do a big fan art, like illustration series based on the books. It's kind of been in the back of my mind for a long time. And it's like bubbled up to the surface here and there where I thought like, oh, I'll start with Elantris, and I did. I read through Elantris and I made a painting for that. So I'm not reading through Elantris again. I've read Elantris 3 times. I don't know why. it's not, it's not his best work. So I'm not starting with Elantris or Alcatraz. But over the holidays, unexpectedly, because again, like I haven't been online, I haven't been posting stuff. I've been very much like in my little healing cave, doing my thing. But over the holidays, I started selling a lot of prints. I was struggling to keep up with the demand, honestly, and um, it was always of the same piece, which is the Shattered Plains Underground from Words of Radiance, um, which is my most popular piece. And I hadn't even realized um, that Wind and Truth had come out. And so I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like, people want to get the new book, and then they want to gift a piece of artwork to go with it. And I'm very flattered that you're buying for me and not, Michael Whalen. um, but it genuinely meant a lot to me. I was getting a lot of like thank you notes and people posting pictures of the artwork up in their office. And um, unrelated to this, coincidentally, a friend of mine who's also a former client sent me a letter with some stickers of some promotional artwork I had done for her around the same time. And it was a pretty potent reminder that, like, I mean, the money's really nice, but the connection is nicer. And along with personally what I've been going through, I think it's been hitting kind of hard and making me want to make stuff. And I think coming into a new year, maybe I'll try to do that. I also talked to my cousin, who's another very talented, successful illustrator, and she definitely was like, just do it and just be scared. So I'm trying. Um, so I want to try to do a series where I go through the whole Cosmere and make art about it and talk about the books. And especially since Sanderson tends to talk about internal struggle a lot, he's definitely one of these fantasy authors that really uses fantasy as metaphor, which is my favorite kind of fantasy. I love the world being saved by broken people. I'm all about it. And considering what I've been going through over the last couple of years, I expect that stuff will come up as I'm talking about the books too, which is kind of what I want. So I'm not reading Elantris again. I'm not doing it. But I am going to read this again. And hopefully you guys can see this. Can you see it? I'm outside in the rain right now. Mistborn. I read Mistborn for the first time, oh gosh, in like 2008. It was a long time ago. I was in college. I was much younger. It took me a couple tries to get into it. Mistborn is definitely like a slow burn, and is one of like the perfect examples of like these sort of Sanderson. What do the people call it? The Sanderson Avalanche, the Sanderlanche. I don't remember. Where you hit a certain point in the book, and it's like the climax is peaking, and then the entire rest of the book is like really emotionally heavy, impactful, quick events, and it's like it becomes this like really intense page turner. But Mistborn is definitely like really kind of chill. Like it's a lower energy book before that, or at least that's how I remember it. And so it took me a couple tries to get through it, but then once I like hit that point, and I don't even remember when that was. Um, all of my videos are going to contain spoilers for all of these books, so I was about to say something and then I realized I needed to say that. It might have been, I don't know, it might have been after Kelsier died, and then ended up, it was like, I'm going to go to the big building or whatever. Can you tell I haven't read this in a long time? But I don't remember what part of the book it was. But once I was hooked, it was like, then I read the rest of Mistborn, then I read Warbreaker, then I read, oh gosh, what was the other one? I read some of his novellas, and then eventually he came out with Stormlight, and like most people, Stormlight's my favorite series. I think it's amazing. And I'm really looking forward to reading this one. However, coincidentally, I'm also reading Terry Pratchett's Weird Sisters, and I'm reading the Delicious in Dungeon manga. And for Christmas, I was gifted a whole stack of other books. So I've got a bunch of hiking books and cookbooks, and it's definitely maybe going to be a year of reading for me. Reading and hiking and exercising and all that. My actual resolution this year is self-care. I want to make sure that I'm taking care of my body this year. I think along with the mental health stuff, I wasn't always good at that in 2024. And I think it very much relates to a lot of messaging that you hear in Brandon Sanderson books. I think he tends to be a very like positive person, and a lot of his books have very like feel good vibes in them. He tends to be like kind of relentlessly optimistic. Um, and that sounds fun to me to read books like that right now. So yeah. So this is hopefully like kind of an announcement. This is I am going to read through Mistborn. I'm going to make notes. I'm going to come up with some painting ideas. Um, my next video, I may do essentially like a maybe like a book review or maybe like a book overview as it pertains to me or my plans for the art. And then the video after that should be some process of the artwork itself, and then I'll show the paintings that I end up doing for Mistborn. So first Mistborn book is the first book that I'm going to read. I may end up reading Wind and Truth. I don't want to get the title one. Wind and Truth. I may end up reading Wind and Truth. I have a pretty good memory for the book, so like I do remember. Although it's Rhythm of War. That was what the last book was called. I'm glad I remembered it. I do remember what happens in that book, especially the end was absolutely insane for Rhythm of War. There was a lot of information, and I do remember that stuff. So I might get into Wind and Truth. I'll end up rereading Stormlight as I go through the whole Cosmere, so I might end up reading it twice when I eventually come back around to it a second time, which is absurd because it's huge. So yeah, so I'm going to start with Mistborn, and we'll see how it goes. And then, yeah, I'll come back and talk about that. This one's pretty rambly. I think I wanted to get over the fear of posting to YouTube again, so I was just like, just talk and post it. I think the next couple, I may actually do some editing and especially some visual elements. I don't know. Maybe I'll do that for this one anyway. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll be back.